With the Premier League coming soon, Ball Street has teamed up with OneFootball, the only app you'll need this season. The OneFootball app's great because it keeps all of the transfer news, scores and stats in one central place. You can also personalise your newsfeed, get push notifications and there's a user-friendly interface. So take me, I'm a Spurs fan. I can check the latest transfer information. Download the OneFootball app now. The link is in the description below. Let me know if Spurs have signed anyone. So Fulham are back in the Premier League for the first time in 4 years. Last season in the Championship, they were one of the best, if not the best, behind Wolves. And if it wasn't for a bad start, they would have qualified automatically. As it stood, it took a playoff final to get through, a win against Aston Villa. How are they doing in the Premier League this season? I'm joined by Sammy from the Fulhamish podcast. How you doing, mate?
All good, mate. How's it going?
I'm very, very good. Probably not as good as you, because you've had an incredible transfer window. Let's start with that. Just the recent signing of Mitrovic, 22 million. How important was he for you last season?
He transformed our promotion chances last year. He turned us from a decent playoff chance team, which is obviously where we ultimately ended up, and he turned us into automatic promotion contenders, which since we were, I think, 17th back in November, was an incredible transformation. It was an amazing time to be a Fulham fan, and I think Mitrovic was really kind of front and centre to Fulham's charge to nearly pipping Cardiff to the post. He beautifully fits Slav's system. He obviously can grab many goals himself. He's a prolific striker, but also his hold-up play brought the rest of the Fulham team into the fore, and there was goals from all around the pitch. And really, Mitrovic's hold-up and bringing like the likes of Tom Cairney and Ryan Sessegnon to the attacking fore was front and centre to how Fulham performed so well at the end of last season. So I'm excited that he's re-signed. He's got a few doubters. He needs to prove them wrong, but I'm happy he's there. Slav loves him. He loves Slav. So I think it's a very good transfer from Fulham's point of view.
Were there any signs of his dodgy temperament that, while he was at Newcastle, he seemed like a bit of a live wire, liable to explode at any moment? Was there any signs of that in the second half of last season for Fulham?
Absolutely none. And I think it was one thing we were worried about when he signed in the January transfer window. So he thought, OK, we've got a great striker here. No doubt he'll get goals. No doubt he's cut above championship level. But we thought, well, we're probably going to lose him for 6 games because he'll probably pick up 2 red cards in that time. But there wasn't even an inkling of him having tempers boil over. He seemed very calm, very measured, and maybe just being a less of a frustrated figure meant that his temperament cooled down somewhat. The thing is, though, it's very easy to stay measured, stay calm when you're playing for a side that's winning every game and you're getting lots of goals and you're the man. The interesting thing to see is this season there will be inevitably a point where Fulham go on a bad run of form. We'll play, lots of the big teams in a row. It's whether Mitrovic can keep his calm then when things aren't going his way. That's the one thing I'm slightly worried about. But no, he seems to have cooled that side of his temperament.
You managed to keep hold of Ryan Sessegnon. Obviously, every club under the sun were looking at him or linked with him at some stage. His rise has been incredible. I think obviously to cut your teeth, the Championship's a good place to do it. But at 16 and now 17, to be an established and the best player in the Championship last season, he was awarded Player of the Season, wasn't he?
He was, much to Wolves fans' annoyance.
Well, I mean, look, there are mitigating circumstances in the fact that he's 17 years old and he was dictating play. Everybody's heard of his name and his reputation, but what kind of player is he and what can the Premier League be expected to see from him next season?
I think some people have misgivings about Ryan Sessegnon. They think that he's some fast attacking tricky winger, which he really, really isn't. I think people kind of see Ryan Sessegnon and they're expecting a young Ronaldo. That's not the kind of forward he is. He's a far more intelligent player who we like to call him on our podcast. We call him the Space Hunter. Similar kind of vibes to Thomas Muller, the way that he can just find a yard in the box and it's instinctive. It's not something that he's learned. It's not something that he's been taught. It's not something that he's nurtured. He's just clearly born with an eye for finding that space and being in the right place at the right time. He's best on the left side of a front forward three, so kind of a left forward, if you will. That's the position that he really flourished in for Fulham last season. He's just mature beyond his years. He doesn't play like an 18-year-old. He plays like someone who's in his mid-20s, who's been playing the game for a long, long time. And I think his performance at Wembley when he set up Tom Kearney's winner just showed the mark of a player that's clearly destined for great things. He doesn't rely on his pace, although he is fairly fast. He doesn't really rely on his skill, even though he is skillful. It's his intelligence, and that's something that's really exciting from a Fulham perspective and also an England perspective going on. I've got absolutely no doubt that he's going to get into the England squad in the next 2 to 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe even feature at Euro 2020 if he keeps on the rise that he's had. And obviously delighted that Fulham have kept hold of him. Not too surprised, though. I think he's a sensible head. I think he's also got sensible people advising him. His twin brother is also, in the Fulham first team squad, Stephen Sessegnon. So I think he feels very at home at Fulham. He's from the area. So I didn't expect him to move this summer. But if he has another season like he did last season in the Championship in the Premier League, we're going to really struggle to hold on to him.
You've also brought in quality in Seri. A lot of clubs were after him. Some top clubs as well, and Fulham have really been proactive in making him one of the players that they ensured to get through the door. He's a tough tackling, all-action central midfielder. Not the biggest, but has definite quality there. Someone I would have liked Spurs to have at least looked at. And Schürrle, who's obviously has the experience of playing in the Champions League, Dortmund, Chelsea before that. An established player. But I think the most exciting signing was Alfie Mawson, an absolutely underrated quality centre-back. I think he's going to go on and do incredible things for England and beyond. What's your feeling about your transfer window generally?
Oh, it's been incredible. It's heady times to be a Fulham fan, and I don't think we've ever had a transfer window like this. We were in the Premier League for 13 years, and we never really had a transfer window like this, except maybe the first time we got promoted to the Premier League and we signed Edwin van der Sar and players like Steve Malbronk, who you'll well know. But even so, I don't think it was quite on the scale of this. Starting off with Seri, really, it was the moment where I think the football world went, okay, Fulham are not here to make up the numbers in the Premier League. It was a serious statement of ambition. He was on the cusp of joining Barcelona 12 months ago. And, Arsenal and Chelsea both linked with him and several other big clubs as well. He didn't have the greatest season last year for Nice. I think he was obviously disappointed to still be at Nice and not get that kind of big dream move. There's clearly reasons why none of the top clubs have come back in for him this summer and he's ended up at Fulham. I think we've got to be realistic there. But it's a huge chance for Seri and it's a huge chance for Fulham. If he can impress at Fulham in the next couple of years, then he might get that big dream move that he obviously so desperately craves. He's not actually that young. He kind of only has a couple of years in him before a big club would kind of maybe say, oh, he's a little bit old to be, becoming a focal point of our team. So he's an incredible player, and most of Europe wanted him. So yeah, obviously delighted with that. And then you talk about Alfie Mawson, and we actually listened back to an episode of the podcast after we got promoted, and we discussed, what players from relegated teams would you be interested in? And we all said, from Swansea, Alfie Mawson, definitely. But then there was kind of a sense of all of us on the podcast going, we couldn't realistically get someone like Alfie Mawson. He wasn't quite in the England squad, but he was definitely banded about in those terms. And we all just thought, he's probably a notch above us. And then we've managed to pull off the coup. But Andre Schürrle is a really interesting one. He's had a couple of tough seasons at Dortmund. I think that's been quite well documented. But if he can show some of that spark that he showed for Chelsea, especially when he came off the bench and changed loads of games for Chelsea, and also obviously played brilliantly in that 2014 World Cup, scored a couple of goals in the semi, set up the winner in the final. If we can see, even half of what Schürrle has showed, 3 or 4 years ago, then we're going to have a hell of a player on our hands. I imagine he's going to start every game from the right wing, and it's really exciting. That front three of Sess, Mitro, Schürrle. I mean, lots of clubs in the Premier League would be very, very happy to have that lineup.
Okay, and finally, how do you see the season going? May 2019, where do you see Fulham ending up? In your wildest dreams, what can you expect?
Wildest dreams. I think we can get to... I genuinely think top 10 is achievable. I know that people are going to hear that and laugh and say, you're only just getting promoted, calm down a second. And of course, if we finish 17th and stay in the Premier League, that is an achievement as well. But wildest dreams, I don't see any reason why the top 10 is unobtainable. I genuinely think the Premier League is split into a kind of top 6 and then the rest. And actually, I don't think too many teams from, who finished 8th, 9th, down last season can truly say, oh, we're definitely safe from relegation. Even Burnley finished in 7th. Much stranger things have happened. And in that regard, if any team can finish as low as 20th from 7th down, then I think any team can finish as high as like 7th or 8th. And that would be brilliant. I just want to finish mid-table. I'd like to not have massive relegation worries hanging over us for the last few months of the season. I'd just like to be able to enjoy being back in the Premier League, and then hopefully we can kick on. Maybe a good FA Cup run would be nice as well. It would be nice to return to Wembley, apart from just going to a Spurs away game. I think that Fulham can definitely consolidate themselves in the Premier League this season. But I think the Khans, the owners, have made no pretense that they want Fulham to be a real top flight challenger and to maybe challenge for proper honours in the seasons to come. And hey, if they make some more signings like they have this transfer window in the coming years, then I don't see any reason why those kind of ambitions can't be fulfilled. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. I for one, think Fulham will do well next season. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the Premier League, and it's always great to see teams come up and be able to play exciting and attacking open football, which I hope they will do. It seems to be the only way they know how to play, and it's been successful. So I hope they go into the Premier League and play that football. It will be a different challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys do. And I'm happy because Fulham away is one of the best away trips you can get. Certainly in London, it's a lovely place to walk along the bank, through the park and towards Craven Cottage. Is a great place for Spurs to go and watch play football. Thank you very much for joining us, Sammy. Remember, you can listen to the Fulhamish podcast if you are a Fulham fan, or if you're interested in what's going on at Fulham and you're ready to play them, download the podcast. Other than that, please subscribe and like to Ball Street, and we will see you soon.